Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open with a couple picnicking at a public park near an unexplored cave. The husband wanders away to find their dog Simon has been turned into chopped liver and hears his wife screaming. An albino troglodyte with kaleidoscopes for eyeballs has come out of the cave and attacked her, so Mr. Picnic tries fighting it off. The mutant just overpowers him with all of its albino strength, then straight up pops this man's head off his shoulders. But the interesting thing's that the humanoid has millions of dollars in uncut gems around its neck. We only know this because the widow bludgeoned it to death with her cooler, but the doctors were unable to revive her husband. Sometime later, a rich woman named Denae decides she isn't rich enough, so visits an old salvaging friend of her late father's. Cort worked with her paleontologist father searching for the lost city of R'lyeh, which is like Atlantis but for dirt instead of water. Denae hires Cort and his classy co-worker Eddy to continue the search because she believes that's where the mutant came from. They agree to $3,000 up front and a cut of the treasure, but before they leave, Cort must first see a man about a map. He's a weird conspiracy nut named Billy, but now his stories about mutants guarding treasure inside the cave is much more believable. He walks with a gimp as a souvenir from the last time he tried to find the lost city and his entire search party was slaughtered. Bill still has the map they drew while exploring the cave, but says there isn't a thing on this earth that could get him to part with it. He doesn't want any more blood on his hands, but Denae flashes a wad of cash, so Bill caves because he could buy a whole lot of whiskey with that. With the map in hand and guns fully loaded, the three adventurers meet outside the cave the next day to begin spelunking the underground. Eddy wakes herself up with a coffee facial, and since we're exploring caves, Cort has hired a couple experts who know the way of the rock. The young one is a geology student named Andrew who can identify minerals and should never be left alone in a room with the overly aggressive Eddy. While the professor is a geologist named Artemis who can tell us how much a rock is worth and leaves pastries on other people's cars. Before departing on their journey, Cort deploys his trunk Mexican named Pedro, who came standard issue in all Mustangs until '68. He's here to mind the car while the group gathers outside of the cave, and Cort grabs Andy by the scruff of his shirt just to say follow his orders. These geologists didn't even know that a mutant came out of this cave a few days ago and just had that piece of vital information dropped on them. It's too late to turn back now, as the party has already taken an entire 2 steps inside the entrance heading towards the ominous red glow. I'm not even sure how legitimate these guys are anyway, because Andrew asks the professor to identify a mineral and he just calls it a rock. We're supposed to believe that after an entire day and 15 subterranean miles of walking guided by the prospector's map, Denae is exhausted, but Artemis is fine. While the group decides to take a rest in this strangely well-lit cave, the cardio machine Artemis can't stop, so he goes wandering off. He discovers cave paintings that look like something a future serial killer would draw in school, but he doesn't take it as an obvious warning. Nearby, a scantily dressed cave bunny is trying to find her way out of the labyrinth of caverns without alerting the hungry mutants. She accidentally steps on the skeleton of her stone-aged cousin, alerting an especially ugly one to her location, so he calls up all the homies. Bunny cartoonishly slaps her forehead because she doesn't know how to speak, so when she comes across Artemis, he doesn't understand her. The rest of the group find him trying to slap the words out of this woman's mouth, but apparently that only works on his wife. Andrew learns that Bunny is more attracted to honey than beating, so has her follow him for the rest of the movie, but I'm sure he's okay with it. They cross paths with a group of the mutants, so our whole party draw guns except for Artemis, who wants to try communicate.
Hello.
The mutants have seen how this man communicates, so one lunges at him, but the group put about 100 bullets in it. Immediately they loot the body for its necklace of uncut gems. However, these half-wits didn't bother to reload, so the other mutants rush them. The intruders get swarmed, but the mutants don't use weapons or even throw punches, so they just kinda grab at them, trying to pop heads off, I assume. Andrew pistol whips one and discovers their weakness when shining his torch in another's eyes, so runs around scaring them all away. Somehow the group didn't notice Denae got kidnapped in the scuffle, and the mutants have carried her back to their campsite. She's tied to a giant rotisserie and marinated in what looks like garlic before they spit roast this poor woman, and not in the fun way. Since she's funding the trip, the group decides to mount a rescue mission when suddenly Artemis develops a convenient case of bone spurs. He remains here with the other woman to rest his sore legs while the men come up with a plan to save Denae, who's about medium rare by now. The whole thing consists of running at the mutants in hopes that they'll run away, and fortunately that somehow works. They rescue a well-done Denae who doesn't even have time to clean off her garlic bread before fleeing the tunnels. A frantic Bunny leads the way, though I'm not sure why, because she has no clue how to get out of this cave either. She just leads them deeper underground, stopping every so often to sniff the dirt, but nobody questions her process because she's a local. They come across a robot just randomly hanging out down here, and it begins trying to shoot at the surface dwellers with its death ray. One touch from this weapon turns a person into a fireball, however it's very inaccurate and Robbie takes entirely too long to turn around. It can't even hit a stationary target, so Denae uses her makeup mirror to risk blowing off her hand and reflect a laser back at the machine. Robbie is defeated, however Colt won't acknowledge that the woman saved his life and says he was just about to roll out of the way. We continue deeper underground until the cavern eventually opens up into a large chamber illuminated by volcano plumes and pits of lava. This empty desert is the lost city of R'lyeh and is home to a few half-dressed mute cave girls like the one we already met. They aren't as friendly, however, and hold our team hostage until their queen arrives in her Cybertruck to inspect the intruders. She's an extraterrestrial dominatrix who crash-landed on Earth forever ago and holds dominion over the cave women with her sheer bust alone. Looking over the specimens like dinner items in a buffet line, Denae gets her hair pulled, but it's Colt who gets smacked in the mouth. He tries to hit this woman but didn't get enough pointers from Artemis on how to roll the wrist, so is defeated and turned into a Tesla logo on the hood of the truck. The queen takes them to her personal cave that looks like every other unfurnished cave in fake Atlantis, then puts too much trust in her illiterate cave girls. She tells two of them to watch Eddy and Denae closely, but they wander off when left alone, so our girls just turn around and run away. For the following whatever minutes of their lives, they wander around the lost desert of R'lyeh and see a bunch of obvious crystals but say, "Look at all those diamonds." Meanwhile, Andrew gets taken by the queen to what I assume is her bedroom because she finds him cute and needs to tell her origin story to somebody. Mrs. Exposition has been trying to repair her spaceship, so built Robbie to mine the cave because it uses the inconvenient fuel source of diamonds. The cave women are a tribe that have served her for centuries and never evolved, while the bug-eyed mutants are just some unrelated group of chuds. Since the Earthlings destroyed Robbie, she expects them to slave away in the mines until they drop from exhaustion, except for the boy toy Andrew, of course. The alien intends to take him back to her homeworld and appears like she might be giving him an intergalactic handy below screen. Bunny disapproves of happy endings, so goes to rescue Colt and Art, who look like they're locked in a cell, but that's just a curtain for a door. She just opens it and is like, "Hey, look over here, it's the rest of the cave system," as they were stuck in there like a couple of parrots with a blanket over their heads. For the next 10 minutes she leads them on a wild goose chase around the desert, getting really low to the ground to see far distances because that's how it works. The boys assume that she's leading them to Andrew, but he's still back in the cave taking a private tour of the queen's personal caverns. She's alerted about the prison break, so grabs her sword and leaves her most intelligent-looking cave Barbie to watch over Andy. Flabbergasted that the humans escaped a closed-over curtain, she chases them into the desert on foot because she couldn't find the car keys. Colt and Artie are still following their human bloodhound, who leads them right into the middle of a prehistoric fight between two claymation dinosaurs. They enjoy the show until the queen arrives, then the trio double back around and leave her to battle the dinosaurs. I guess this was Bunny's distraction. It got her away from Andrew, I suppose, but Queenie just picks up the javelin of convenience from behind a rock and hurls it into the beast. Returning to her foot race with the humans, they've already reached the cave and Bunny comes up with a plan to get past the one inept guard. She's like, "What's that over there?" then jumps the Stone Age skank, but neither of the guys help, they just watch her fighting for her life. They then walk straight past her catfight saying, "Good work, honey," then untie Andrew, but fortunately Bunny wins anyway. She's now topless, however, and licks Andy's face to satisfy some writer's fantasy before they join up with the girls, who return to the cave for some reason. Everyone is wearing a jacket, but nobody lends it to Bunny and just flee out of the cave, where they find the alien spaceship lying dormant. There's a whole heap of uncut diamonds on the ground, but not enough to power the ship apparently, so the group grab fistfuls because why not? When the queen arrives, they steal her truck because she left the keys in the ignition, explaining why she couldn't find them earlier. It's also conveniently facing the cave that leads them right to the surface, so they follow the tunnel in a straight line to escape this place. The queen's whole thing was, "I'm an alien, so I'm much smarter than you humans," but now she's chasing them on foot after being carjacked, so welcome to Earth. Andrew is nice enough to give Bunny his jacket once her nips are frozen over, but this hoopty of a space truck breaks down. The group smell gas leaking, as that's apparently something it uses, so run the rest of the way on foot, which was only like 13 feet. Either Queenie walks really fast or it takes a very long time to explode, but she strolls up, smells the gas, so calls it a day and walks home. She never used this thing anyway, which gives us the movie's only explosion, and the spelunkers take Andrew's new girlfriend home to begin toilet training. Presumably Pedro is put back in the trunk, while a final scene shows the otherworldly bombshell approached by the mutants. They rush the sword-wielding queen, leaving us to speculate on whether she survives or gets eaten from both ends. And the movie ends.